Hello, everyone. I'm here today again with Andy Crestodina from Orbit Media. And Andy has been in the web design and interactive marketing space since January of 2000. In that time, he's helped thousands of people do a better job getting results online. He's a true evangelist for content marketing and ethical digital marketing. Together with the team at Orbit Media, Andy has put out some of the best digital marketing advice available in hundreds of practical articles, including posts on virtually all of the top marketing websites. Then there's his book, Content Chemistry, which is currently in its 4th edition. Not only is Andy a founder of Content Jam, Chicago's largest content marketing conference, which is currently in its 5th year, but he's also a regular face on the national circuit. And if you go to a content marketing conference, the one Chicagoan you'll most likely to hear is Andy Crestodina. And today we are going to continue our conversation for non-paid content promotion strategies. This is part 2. So if you are just listening to this for the first time, please do go listen to the first one because we've covered a lot, but there was so much to cover that we had to create a part 2. Andy, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm glad to be back. This is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, we were talking about this, and I know non-paid content promotion strategies is probably near and dear to many people's hearts. So when we were talking about it, we just had so much to talk about, and you gave such good information that we had to cut it short. So let's go ahead and just dig right in where we had left off. And I think at the time we had left off on the ability to leverage content communities, and I'd like for you to talk a little bit about executing this strategy.
Sure. So there are groups of us, and we live on islands, and it's a bad thing that we're on islands in some ways because we tend to just talk to ourselves and stay within our groups. But it's a good thing to be an island in a way because you can build a community and you can become more active with people. So an example with, I think one of the things we were talking about was like private Slack boards and different like LinkedIn groups, things like that. Yeah. So I'm in one, here's an example. I'm publishing a piece of research. It's a survey of 1,000 bloggers, and I'm working really hard at it. And it's going to go live on Thursday, and I'm hoping people will pick it up and cover it and talk about it. So this morning when I got to work, I took a minute and I posted a little taste of it, a couple of charts, on several private Slack boards. And the immediate response was, I'd like to write about that. I'd like to write about that. And people start sending me direct messages. I replied with more research. It was a tactic that took me minutes, really, right? Maybe I spent a half hour on it total. But because of that, there are probably half a dozen websites that will all be writing about this research that we're publishing.
Wow.
All of us going live at the same time. You know,
Can you back up? Can you back up a little bit though? You do private Slack boards. I bet you that's not common knowledge for people, and then we can talk about what's going to happen. Can you talk a little bit? Find that real quick.
Yeah, that sounds like some ninja stuff, right? It sounds
right.
Like if you don't know what Slack is, that must have sounded really like yeah. So
I'll start
Slack,
throwing out some acronyms in a second.
Right. So there is a startup that is a darling in the venture capital community called Slack. Slack is a messaging platform. There's a free version, and I recommend it for organizations to communicate with each other. That is a little bit like an overlap between like a GChat or any chat messaging system and like a private version of Twitter. You have a Slack board, which is like your team, and within your Slack board there's little groups like chat rooms, each of which has a different stream, and anyone in that room can post, and people can direct message each other. So there's several of these out there now that I know of, probably hundreds of them, which are simply groups of content marketers who are all in this little like mutual beneficial promotion groups. I'm in one called Growth Chat. There's another one called Boost Chat or Growth Slack. I don't know how, I mean, you can make them. All you do is start a Slack account and just reach out to 25 people who are all interested in getting more traffic and who are all consistent publishers and who all have good quality and who all have similar social followings, and just create one. I know one of them was made by Jonathan Dane. I know one of them was made by Sujan Patel. There's just different people who've just made these things. There's no magic to it at all. And each of them has so there's one of the little rooms in there or streams is called Promotion Help. That's by far the most active. So the real purpose of these Slack boards is, or a private Facebook group. There's nothing magical to Slack. What content marketers are doing is creating little private communities. Some of the more interesting social media is actually happening inside these little private communities. And what people are doing is just helping each other get traction. So imagine if you were in a group, let's say right now, David, you and I start a group and we've got 25 people in it, and one of the channels in there is the promotion help. If you post something, me and 24 other people all share it immediately. If I post something, you and 25 other people all share it immediately. It's like an unfair advantage.
Wow.
So, yeah, hey, I posted this on this community. Can everyone please go help me with some votes? People upvoting each other's stuff. Hey, I'm trying to, I got a new thing live on Facebook. Can people go help me, share it or like it? Now, it's a big benefit because a lot of this, things like Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, they have algorithms that decide how many people will view something. So if you can share something with a little community or a group of helpers who all take action on it quickly, you can trigger the feedback loop inside these algorithmic social platforms that make that thing more visible to a much larger group. For example, take Hacker News or Reddit or inbound.org or Growth Hackers. These are communities where if people start to use something or like something or interact or comment, then that thing is much more likely to become visible to a much, much larger audience, right? It's algorithmic. There's a curve. So the goal is to quickly push it up the curve. So that's just one of the ways in which people are using these groups to help find good stuff. I mean, I've found great articles that these people are sharing with each other, and to find what good stuff to share with your audience, promoting industry stuff, and to get your stuff promoted better. Finally, there's just great collaborators. So if I say, hey, I'm looking for someone to contribute to a piece I'm doing on topic X, I'm going to find them very quickly inside these groups.
Okay. And how do you find those groups again?
I don't know how. I think I would. Yeah,
I mean, we can always
random.
Google it. Yeah, and figure it out. But
I would actually consider making one. I would consider creating. I mean, you don't need to wait. This is the difference between good and great, and this is the difference between basic and advanced. If you can look for something to be a part of, and that's fine, and that works, and anyone can do that. But advanced marketers, advanced anything, entrepreneurs, the only difference between an entrepreneur and an employee is that person just decided to start something, to be the person to take the first action. Yeah. Like you said in my introduction, I created a conference, which is now the largest content marketing conference in Chicago. There's only 300 people who come to it. It's not that big, but there wasn't another one. Draw a circle, and everyone wants to be inside. It's like a human nature thing. Yeah. So, yeah, you can go look for a private Slack group or try to join someone else's, Facebook thing or whatever, or make your own, find a good LinkedIn group to join. Or it's not that hard. It takes literally, take you less than an hour to create one yourself. Of course, then you're the community manager and you've got to build it up and you've got to be active there. But I'd encourage people to consider the initiative. These are early days for these kinds of things. You could definitely create your own.
Yeah, great advice, great advice. And did you want a couple other platforms we'll talk about real quick, but is there anything else you wanted to add about that? But great point. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I've never heard of it. I haven't heard of that. So, I mean, that's awesome. I'm gonna dig into that immediately.
Content, yeah, it's like a content promotion community. It's literally, if I put something in there, 10 people will share it within half an hour. And I mean, that's.
And you know what that means. That's a big deal. A huge
Marketers
deal.
share stuff on social media. Great marketers share stuff with an army of people who share it on social media. It's a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about some of these other, I guess it's not as intimate as the content community you've just described, but other places like, well, you did kind of touch on it, like business to community, inbound.org, even, BizSugar, Triber, Blog Engage, things like that. You suggest posting your stuff there as well, or why don't you dig into that and talk about the benefits there?
Yeah. I mean, the return is going to be dependent on your investment. So what's not going to work is to just do a drive-by and to cruise past a community and just dump a link there and then leave and, not interact. So these are the entire point of any community, is trust and mutualism and reciprocity. So you should be prepared to give first. So any of them, any of these groups, that you find that are like that. But if you want that network to be there for you, to share something that, when you post it next week, you should be there this week. And if it's Slack, it's actually pretty easy because the app is nice and you can just, the user interface is beautiful. But yeah, whatever you do, I mean, anywhere you go, anything at all, you got to give before you get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you keep hearing that over and over. We recently did a podcast with Ted Rubin, and he's big on R&R, return on relationships. So once you get going with these relationships, treat them as such, and slow down a little bit, blend a little bit of old school and new school to get where you need to be, because you gotta leverage these things. It's funny, everything just went total social, and then now we're hearing slow down and get more personal, right? And then in 2 years it'll be like, never talk to anyone ever again. I mean, who knows? It just keeps changing. But yeah, absolutely, it's great advice, and everyone needs to really take. You want to be able to go big and fast and run and everything, but the turtle in the hare, right? And you will go faster and further in the long run if you do take your time to practice reciprocity and practice it before you expect anything, and you should get a lot more. Now, on the flip side of that, and again, I know we just kind of got started today, but if you do go back and listen to the first one, you'll see that there is a lot to consider and a lot to get going with, and it can feel overwhelming, especially if you're a small company or a one-person department, or if you're a larger company who you're dealing with lots of content and you really don't have the bandwidth or the manpower to do all these things and go the speed that you need to go, which is leveraging these relationships and going in, commenting and sharing and doing all this stuff. Can you give some advice on automation? Can you give us some advice on how to do it right?
Sure. So there are two ways to make yourself more effective and move the fulcrum over. One is delegation, the other is automation. There are tools for making simple tasks much easier and making them kind of automatic. One of the tools that I use that saves me probably 6 or 8 hours a month at least is a tool called Edgar. It's $50 a month. It might be more now. Edgar is a way for you to load up your content just as if you would with Buffer. Did we talk about this? It keeps things in rotation forever. Buffer runs out, Edgar keeps going, right? So it's going to keep sharing these things repeatedly over time. So that's the type of automation, one of the few types of automation that I use. Actually, there's another tool that I'm using now, which is brilliant. Oh, my God, this is great. Listen, I'm using a tool called X.AI, and it's like a virtual assistant, but it's a robot. So her name is Amy, and if you wanted to set up a meeting with me, which we are planning to do here soon, I can just be like, yeah, hey, I've got, let's meet maybe sometime in a week or two. I'm copying Amy on this email, and she has access to my calendar, and she'll help us find a time. Amy then writes to you and says, Andy's available in these 4 different times. She can see my calendar. You choose a time. You email back and forth with her. Once you settle on a time, she puts it on my calendar. I'm done. She saves me. She set up 9 meetings for me last week, and she is not a human being. She's a total robot. It's
wow.
That's another one. It's like $40 or $50 a month. So that's X.AI. It's artificially intelligent scheduling person. But I think a better trick for most people is if the tool's aren't there yet, it's just delegation. So if there's something that you do that you feel like someone else could do for you, step 1 is to document every detail in that process and write the instruction set for that. Write a little owner's, like an instruction manual. For example, Okay, someone books me for a podcast. Great, I'm looking forward to it. Magnificent. I'd love to be on the show. Right? Great audience. This will be fun, smart interaction, good questions. Let's do this. The next step for me is to send a book. The next step after that is to get it set up. Once it's live, share it on this channel, share it on LinkedIn, share it on, I have a list of steps that I take every time that I should do every time. So if I'm ever going to delegate this job of social promotion for a podcast or for a webinar or for a piece that I was in or a piece that we published, it's a pretty routine thing, right? It's like, here's how to write the headline, here's how to make the image, here's how to choose the hashtag, here's how to mention an influencer, whatever the thing is. Now, what I've done in the last few weeks is first thing I do every morning is I document another process like that. Mm-hmm. And now I have like an 8-page handbook that everything, how to do social media promotion for anything that touches this company. Now it's probably like a $20 an hour person, right? It's like a VA. Hire a VA, write the instruction manual for all of those routine tasks, and then hire a VA. If it doesn't work, no problem. Try another one, because you have the instruction manual. Just keep trying until you find someone who works. Yeah. You'll save yourself probably 4 hours a week.
Yeah, and that's a great. And just kind of add to that, something that really works well for us is we do use Slack, by the way. We incorporate it within our Trello board. We use a tool called Trello, and within each individual task that we need to do, could be 2 to 20 steps, right? Like what you mentioned 5, 6, 7, 8 things that you want to do. You can create boards within that, cards within that you can, have a templated card, and then you assign and then you just check off what was done and what was completed, and you can assign different things to different people. So it's a great tool that we use that does what you say, but on the web, and it lets us keep track of. And then that's what I do when I do these podcasts. We turn them into blog posts, and then I have everybody has their marching duties, and then it comes to mine, and then I have to go and put it up on all these different sites, the different communities. We do we post this everywhere, so, or as many places as we have found that work for us. So so anyways, it's just like what you mentioned, but it's a great tool that can help with that, and they can help from the managerial aspect. You can oversee, log in, was this stuff completed or not, right? And you can check it off.
That's quality. That's how do you manage quality without checklists, without process?
Yeah,
Even if you're not doing it for productivity, even if you're the only person doing it, you should still do that.
Oh, absolutely. It's my checklist. I created it for myself. I just incorporated my own with it because there's no way I can keep up with all of it. And then it's been a godsend. And it's just, some of these things, we dig in and talk about. Some of them are, absolutely, higher level thinking and knowledge and being in the industry. And sometimes it's just, plain old logic, right? And you forget about it. And in this fast-paced world, especially in the marketing world, it doesn't get any faster paced than this. And in this, everything's changing, and your world's spinning. And I tell our team all the time, I go, guys, we're going to forget more than we know. We're going to forget. And if we don't document it, we don't write it down, it's just going to come and it's going to go. And I've experienced that so much that it's just, hearing from people like you just reinforces that as successful as somebody, appears and they're so smart, I promise you that they have to have their own documented strategy, and they have to have their own checklist, and they got to do what you got to do, and staying organized. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
I think that the people who are the best at this, and the ones who, and I could name names, but we probably already know who they are, who you see just consistently putting out tons of stuff. Yeah. It's like, how could that person possibly publish 6 pieces of this length in those places every week? Yeah. I know a guy, and some other time if you want over a beer, I'll tell you who this was, publishes 1,000 times a year. Oh my God. Literally just has a VA pull from a deep well of past articles, rewrites the headline, makes a new image, and puts it on Medium 3 times a day. and half a million hits on views on Medium per month. I'm going to guess, after the call, I'll guess who you're talking about. But the volume that comes out of certain certain people isn't, you know, the name is there and it's a person, of course, behind it, and it's a thought leader, and they're really coming up with the original research and the publishing of, you know, the source material. But they are heavily leveraged with a team around them that puts out, that finishes rough drafts or creates rough drafts from outlines or syndicates content to multiple places. You know, there's, I got a call last week from a guy who's like, hey, I'm not going to tell you who, but you know who. I'm the guy who writes this many articles every month for that person, and I could do it for you. So they, the big names in this industry are actually highly leveraged in terms of their time, and they use industries. They use assistants and ghostwriters to put themselves way over the top in terms of volume and quantity.
And let me touch on what you just said, because I had an internal struggle with this until I knocked myself. I don't want to say so. The opposite of knocking myself senseless. You know, I came to my senses, and I had an issue with, you know, these podcasts, and then having to go in and listen and write them out and doing all this stuff. And I was like, I have to be the one writing. I have to be the one. And then all of a sudden the company's growing and there's all this stuff to worry about and all this other stuff. And then the podcast frequency has increased, and there's just so much going on that I finally had to let that get ripped away from me, you know, the actual writing of the podcast, of the blogs. And, you know, talking with other people, they're like, no, absolutely, you know, having ghostwriters is standard protocol, and it's okay, you know. And it may be one thing if I was acting like you know, somebody else was actually conducting these podcast interviews, is acting like they're, but having ghostwriters, having teams involved, everybody is doing it. Every single buddy. Now, of course, if you don't have the money, you don't have the staff, and, you know, you can't pay, you know, a couple $100 to get something written, or even $100 to get something written. Well, you know, that's just where you are in your career, and that's completely fine. And again, all those people started at that point too. You know, everybody starts somewhere. So don't think that you're being disingenuous or dishonest or anything like that by having ghostwriters or having people help out, or, you know, getting involved in the content. Just know it's what everybody who's you see successful out there, that's what they're doing. I promise you.
It's common. It's just a smart way to do it. It's not these, and they're still thought leaders. You know, these people still stick their neck out. They're still taking a stand for things. They didn't outsource their voice. They only outsourced the task of doing the production on the content. They're not completely abdicating the job of creating things. They're just heavily leveraged, taking a small action of starting a piece and deciding what it's about and what they believe in, what the brand is about, and what their voice really is, and then just outsourcing the tasks of creating it. It's not, you know, ghostwriting isn't abdication. It's collaboration.
Yep, exactly. And don't forget that delegating takes management know-how and skill.
Sure does.
So
sure does.
That's a skill, and you should, you know, if you're able to do it and you're able to find the right people, then, you know, that's a talent and a gift, and you should be proud of it. So, all right, well, moving on here. The Forgotten Gem email. Well, give me some of your best practices for this distribution. Well, first of all, tell me if you do agree that it is a gem. And number two, talk about some of your best practices in regards to collecting emails, sending them out, and the like.
I love email. Email, of all the sources of traffic that you have, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, those are all companies that are not really trying to help you make money. They're doing their own thing. They're trying to make money themselves. So you can't rely on them long-term to create a sustainable source of traffic for you. You don't own them. You don't own your Facebook likes. You don't own your Google ranking. The only things you own in your marketing are your content, your website, and your email list. That should be enough to convince you that, yes, you know, this is the same way a financial advisor would say, diversify your sources of income or your portfolio. You need to diversify your sources of traffic. So I'm a huge fan of email. It decouples you from these companies that you really can't control. Facebook's going to change again forever, whatever. I mean, they're making more, Facebook and Google are making more money than ever, and it's not surprising. Yeah, so grow your list. It puts you in control. You live up to the promise and send people whatever you committed to. So the first trick is to grow the list, and that is to have a high, basically step one is to make sure you have a high converting email sign-up form. So the 3 Ps for your email sign-up form are going to be next to the content, which is where people are most likely to subscribe. You have an email sign-up box that is prominent. First P is prominence. It stands out. You can use a light box. I've never done it, but that's a great way to be super prominent. I use a red box on a white background on the right side.
Okay.
That is sticky, so no matter how far down you scroll on a piece, it's always right there. So visual prominence is one thing. It can't just be in the footer. The next thing is it needs to make a promise. So it needs to tell people what they're going to get. Web marketing tips. How often? Bi-weekly. I have a bi-weekly web marketing tip, and that's what it says in the call to action. Again, if it's just in the footer and it just says email sign up, you're not actually promising anybody anything. There's no reason they would take that action. You didn't even tell them why they should, like what they would get. You didn't put a package on your product. So definitely promise people something. The third P is proof, like social proof. Like the person should sense that someone else has taken this action before. So it could be, if you have just a tiny list, you can use a testimonial. Hey, David's podcast is the best. I highly recommend. Drop off your email address here. He'll send it straight to your inbox.
Can you email that to me? No, I'm joking.
You have to rewind the tape. Thank you. The other one is list size, which you can do later. But eventually, your call to action might sound like this. This is mine. Join the 13,000 people who receive bi-weekly web marketing tips. Because that's in a big red box, I have prominence, promise, and proof all together. And so the conversion rate from a great article, which is why people subscribe, is because they saw something good, they got value. The conversion rate from a great article for me might be like 1%, which I'm very happy with. So 1% of people who read this amazing article that I did my best creating subscribe and ask for more. As such, we'll get between 10 and 20 new subscribers per day. Now I have, I know that I'm going to have traffic next week and next month and next year because we grew the list. So no matter what happens, Google could shut down. Facebook goes dark. I'm going to have traffic next week because I'm going to send an email.
Awesome. And what about thank you pages? I've recently seen some good tips on that. Can you have some, like after somebody subscribes, what they get?
Yeah, the main message about thank you pages is to never create a dead end on your website. There should never be a page that has nothing subsequent for the person to do. So after the person does subscribe, they should land on a page, not a thank you message, like a little message box, but a thank you page, like a URL. That URL lets you create the destination goal using Google Analytics. So that's when someone takes an action on your website and they convert from a visitor into a lead or a visitor into a subscriber, there's actually 5 things that should happen. They land on a thank you page, which has a subsequent call to action, such as follow us on Facebook or read this other article. They get an email auto response, or the first email in an auto response sequence, and that's also has another call to action or some other marketing incentive or some other value you're offering. And they should trigger as a goal in Google Analytics. That's the third thing. You should get an email notifying that letting you know that that person converted, especially for leads, maybe not for email. And then the fifth and final thing would be that they stored to a database. So email isn't totally reliable as a way to get your leads. Storing to a database is a nice thing to do. You might have it integrate with something like MailChimp or something else. That's where you don't have to migrate them in manually. The downside to integrating with MailChimp and having each person who subscribes goes directly into MailChimp is that you might not get exact control over the thank you page. MailChimp might want you to do a double opt-in process. There's lots of little things in which you lose control. You trade, it's like, oh, I don't want to manually move anybody. Yeah, that's nice, but you're going to make some other trade-offs. If you want
not a big deal,
control,
though. I mean, what you're mentioning is such not a big deal. You can get your list and put them in yours. You can download it into an Excel or CVS or something.
That's what I do. I do it manually.
That's what we do. I mean, it's not it's not worth the price of not having the option to have a thank you page where you get to tell them to sign up for your podcast or request samples or thank you.
Totally agree.
Exactly, something like that. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. Yeah, I just wanted you to touch on that. And by the way, great tips on the proof, promise, and prominence. Something simple, right? So simple. Again, just getting back to some of these things are higher level, and other things are just, I say logic. That logic is from, years of testing and you studying up on things, but it's not like rocket surgery, right? So, but it's nice for people to get some actionable items to take away, and that right there alone is going to help with your conversions. And then the more you grow your emails, then now you have people who are, golly, what would a targeted list of 5,000 that signups be worth to you? I mean, you can run a business. Oh, yeah. So, yeah.
Ask yourself this question. I would rather have, how many subscribers are worth the same as Facebook likes? I mean, I'd rather have one subscriber than 25 Facebook likes.
Right? Bigger. I'd go bigger. Yeah.
100?
Yeah, for sure.
Would you rather have, what would the exchange rate be, like the magnificent hypothetical exchange rate between like subscribers, Twitter followers, or Facebook likes?
Yeah. It'd be probably one to, an opt-in email, of course, somebody who saw your stuff and liked it and everything. And again, assuming that they're in your target market, but again, that's a fair assumption. So yeah, from 1 to 100 probably, it's just, I would say so as well, and people forget it. So I always like to, get everybody talking about it because it's just so important. It's just so important to be able to get your message out for sales messages, but especially to deliver your content, and there's just no better way. But all these other things, the content marketing and the, possibly social advertising and banner ads and all that, it all plays into this. It's just part of the equation, but it's another net to catch them. So yeah, I appreciate you touching and giving some good pointers there. All right, to move on a little bit, unless you had anything else you wanted to touch on email.
No. Yeah.
Okay. All right, to move on now, this isn't directly a content promotion strategy in the literal sense, but getting organic traffic for each post and your site in general is basically one of the main end goals before the main end goal of, getting sales and stuff like that. So can you talk about the most important things to consider for each specific blog post?
Yeah. Well, you have to understand, if you're serious about SEO, then you have to understand authority and your relative likelihood of rank. So Google doesn't share the PageRank, so-called PageRank data anymore. So we all use a proxy or like a substitute metric that Moz created, and it's called domain authority. So you should really only target phrases in Google on your content if your domain authority is kind of in the same range as the domain authority of the other websites that rank for that phrase. If you are targeting a phrase where the other websites that rank for the phrase have a much higher domain authority, you really don't have a chance of ranking. And no matter what you do, nothing's going to work. So that's an important first step, is to understand, and I could give you an article, we could link in the show notes or something, but that's an important first step to understanding your how SEO works and how to target phrases for which you really do have a chance. The next thing is to just indicate the relevance for the content, for the topic. So you want to use the target key phrase in the title, in the header, and in the body text. That's it. That's pretty simple. It's called relevance. So authority is half of it, relevance is the other half. Now, Google likes deep content and long pages with lots of information and detailed, thorough information. So it's going to benefit you to make what is quite literally, and in your view, without question, the best page on the internet for that topic. So let's say you have a low domain authority, and you want to write something about private content marketing communities. You need to target like a long specific phrase because there'll be less competition for it. How to find private social media groups for marketing. Okay, that's a really long, like 7-word phrase or something. You could probably rank #1 for that with very little effort, even if you have a young website with low authority. If you want to target more competitive phrases, you'll need a higher level of authority, such as private marketing communities. That's probably a much more competitive phrase. It's a 3-word phrase. But regardless, either case, no matter who you are, you're trying to make the best article on the internet for private marketing communities or how to find a private social media group for marketing, whatever it might be. So that thing is probably going to be like 1,000 words long. And you're going to be covering that topic from every angle. You're going to answer all kinds of related questions. You're going to be writing, bullet lists and numbered lists and tips, and you're going to put in contributor quotes, and you're going to find statistics and trends, and you're going to be citing, useful resources. So you made a great page on the topic. You targeted a phrase you had a chance of ranking for. You used the phrase appropriately in the title, in the header, and in the body text. That's pretty much it. I mean, everything after that is much more, kind of a much more detailed fine-tuning thing, like links to the post from other posts, links to the new thing you made from something old. Here's a tip, almost no one does this. You're not done publishing something new until you link to it from something old. So go back and find another article you wrote on the topic and link to your new article from that old thing and put the keyword in the link from the old thing to the new. So you found an old article on your site that mentions private marketing groups, and you linked to the new thing with the text, with the key phrase in the link, private marketing groups. Another thing you can do that is kind of fine-tuning is to make sure that you're not just using the target key phrase in, private marketing groups. Find the related words that Google thinks are connected to the topic.
Yeah, I think it's phrases. Semantic, right? That's a big,
semantic SEO.
A lot of big talk about that in the last conference at the Content Marketing World. So yeah, definitely everyone pay attention to this. It's new, so when things are new, you have a chance to get ahead of the game. So yeah, why don't you dig into that? I just wanted to bring some extra attention to this.
So if I'm, let's take private social media groups. If I search for private social media groups, at the bottom of the Google search results page, it says search is related to private social media groups. And it says private social network for business, private social network platform, private social media sites. So the word business, platform, network, sites, those are all words that are connected to my topic, but that did not appear in my initial target phrase. So I want to spread out my meaning across not just the target phrase, but across the broader topic by finding those semantically connected words, and I just told you one place you can find them, and then using those somewhere in my article. Pretty prescriptive, a little bit more of like a fine-tuning thing, definitely a smart way to approach SEO for the long run, but that's sort of, that's like a very basic way, understanding authority, indicating relevance, and then finally getting a little bit fancier with it.
Yeah, and I would like to just point out that, you were mentioning, if you don't have a chance to rank for those, if you're a new site, and Andy, I'm sure, doesn't want to either, and we don't want to discourage people who are just getting going on blogging and, even a new company, a new website. You just need to understand that it's not going to happen immediately, but, and you want to have a strategy, and you're going to have to go to find out what we're talking about, keyword competitiveness and search volume, and you're going to have to most likely use a service like an SEO Moz or an SEMrush or someone like that to help you, because I think Google's kind of removed some of the data from what they offer. But so you want to use that as a starting point to see low-hanging fruit and what you want to go after. But if you do the things that Andy's suggesting, and you find the ones that you want to go after in general, and some of them could be higher competitive ones because those are going to be the higher search volume. So you're going to want to obviously have an eye on them, but just don't expect anything right away. But if you do the things that Andy's talking about, and you do them consistently, and you're blogging once, twice a week, and you're putting stuff out, over time, you have a chance to rank for those things, but it's gonna take time for some things. So I think the point you were making is don't expect anything this one time. Like, don't expect anything, basically. But
it's the slowest form of marketing I can think of. I mean, SEO is like, it's
the slowest, but it's the most powerful if
so
done
powerful.
over time. Yeah, then that's why I try to, and that's the key to marketers and people, agencies that are trying to sell other accounts and marketers who are trying to sell to their bosses and, the proper strategy. You got to invest. It's a marathon, not a sprint, but you're building a brick house. But to build that brick house, you got to lay the bricks right. You got to lay the mortar right. You got to do all this stuff right. And that's what Andy's giving you. So don't get discouraged that you can't do it. Just understand it's going to take time, but don't just frivolously put stuff up, do it the wrong way, because then at that point, just don't do it at all. Go walk around the block and start knocking on doors, because that's going to be more effective. But if you do it the right way over time, you will have a chance to rank. Just understand what you're dealing with on that. So awesome, appreciate that. Now, what are some other on-page ideas you can get to help drive traffic? And what I mean by that aren't the elements within the blog like you just mentioned. I'm talking about other strategic actions you can take, such as putting stuff on your homepage and whatnot. Can you talk about that?
Well, do you mean the construction of content, like the aspects within an article that make it successful?
No, not necessarily. Things that you can do strategically, putting it on your homepage possibly. We talked about already putting it in your thank you page. You could have a super duper piece of content that you want to, hey, thanks for subscribing to your email list. By the way, check out,
Oh, sure.
Stuff like that.
Well, so where else to promote a piece of content to get more traction from it?
Yeah, free stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, there's everything I do is free. I'm a terrible person to ask about paid because I don't do any paid advertising at all. But there are lots and lots of little things that you can do to make an article more visible. The ideal is actually to figure out which of your articles gets the biggest percentage of visitors to subscribe first, and then put those in. Those are the ones that you want to do this with. And there's a special way to that. There's a special way to do that, which we could talk about another day. But it's how to calculate the conversion rate from visitor into subscriber from each of your pieces of content. So let's say we've done that, and we know that these are the 3 articles that when people see them, they're the most likely to take action and become a newsletter subscriber. Great. Now, the places I can put those, my email signature, I think you mentioned, my homepage, if I have a content area on that, I can put them at the bottom of other high traffic posts. That's probably the best trick, right? You have certain high converting posts, you have other high traffic posts. One of the fastest ways to get better results is to connect the traffic champions to the conversion champions. That's
good pointer.
That's the one link that will make you that will grow your list the fastest of any. If you have 3 minutes to do marketing, that's it. Connect your traffic, connect your best cheese to your best mousetraps. That's what very few marketers do, but it's a no-brainer when you think about it. Just the trick is just to look at your analytics and figure out which are, the best. What's your best cheese? What's your best mousetrap?
Fantastic pointer. Yeah, that's something that I haven't really put a ton of emphasis on. I know we do other related articles, but we try to make them related. But I haven't taken that next step and thought that through. So thank you, personal level there. Awesome.
There are some, and it's probably like 10x. You've got a small number of articles that are getting much, much more traffic than others. You've got a small number of articles that are inspiring much, much more conversions than others. As soon as you know what those are, I don't even need to make any recommendations. You will get 65 ideas on how to either create more traffic and conversion champions or how to connect these things. One of the things that may be less obvious, I know a guy, Larry Kim from WordStream, he says, these are your unicorns. They'll jump out at you. And as soon as you find a unicorn, your job is to make baby unicorns. You need to go, and whatever that thing was, okay, that article that you wrote about private social networks or something like that, now you want to go and make that article into a video, make that article into a diagram, make that article into an interview, write that article for someone else, get someone else, collaborate with, do a roundup on that topic. You basically, now that you know that this is the thing that is working well for your readers, you want to create more of stuff on that topic. Now the people who subscribed, or the people who followed you, or the people who clicked from a search result have more to dig into. Why is Wikipedia such a time suck? Because there's related stuff for everything. If you don't have the related thing, if your unicorn is like a solo thing, like it's all lonely out there, then that visitor is just not likely to fall into that click hole and stay longer. So definitely, as soon as you find these champions, traffic or conversion champions, you want to promote them by going across, I call it, there's like 5 ways. You want to publish in different subtopics, different keywords, different formats, video, images, infographic, podcast, with different collaborators, there's an influencer for everything, and at different locations on related websites that cover these things differently. So now you're building a hub of interrelated content. Very few marketers do it. Just by, and just doing that alone, right, will put you in the top 1%. All you have to have, I mean, if you published for even a year, you probably have 1 or 2 of these on your site. Time to build up more on that interrelated, interconnected content, go deeper, be more persistent, be more structured. This is how the greats really do it. You know, they're just making decisions based on a little bit of data and then turning that winner into a whole family of winners. Now you got a lot of unicorns.
That's wonderful. Do you have a certain procedure, or you know, how you make sure you remind yourself to do that over a certain period of time, like weekly? Do you have a note that says, hey, go look for this, or monthly, or what's your process is for that? I mean, I'm sure it's not just random, like, oh, I just thought about going to do this now. I'm sure you have structure to that. What do you do on a personally to make sure you audit and look over and make your decisions, and then make future, you know, for future content ideas and strategy and stuff? What do you do?
Well, one of the things that I'm doing is tracking my performance in Moz for different key phrases. Now, if I know, so I'm tracking, I don't know, like 100 or more key phrases in Moz. If I see that, and I know that these are traffic magnets, I'm not just tracking the traffic, I know the rank, and Moz will track the rank over time for me. It's like a $125 tool. It's one of the few tools I pay for. So what Moz lets me do then is to see what's going up and what's going down. I'm watching for things that are close to tipping points or right behind a threshold. And if I see that I've got an article that is, the rank is starting to drop out of the top 3, or the rank is almost on page 1, then I'm going to focus on that. I have literally a list called Focus. And when I am invited to write for something, or if I decide what to publish next, I'm going to focus on things that I know that are going to get me better results because they're right there on that edge. I'm going to strategically focus on those things where the smallest effort gets me the best results.
How often do you do that? How often do you review that?
I get a notification, an email from Moz once a week. So I'll look at it once a week. I update the focus list about once a month because it doesn't change that fast.
Sure.
Probably once a month I'll decide, make a list of 5 or so things that I'm going to be rotating in and out of my focus, mentioning in other places, including in contributions or that kind of thing.
Cool. Awesome. Well, man, Andy, again, I can't believe our time is up again already. Yeah. I have to say, man, you are fun to talk to. It's just, you just give some just tangible, real-world takeaway stuff that people can go apply right away, and I can't thank you enough, just, again, for the listeners and for myself. I'm made a note to re-listen to this. Well, not that I do all of them anyways, but I'm definitely going to re-listen to this a couple of times because there's so many pointers that we need to implement that I haven't thought of. So appreciate it. Any parting thoughts at all?
No, but anytime. I'm looking forward to that call. And, hey, if you start a content promotion Slack group, let me know. I'd love to join.
I think that's one of the notes I was going to look into. Well, I appreciate it. Andy, real quick, how can people continue to learn from you?
Dave, this is great. Aside from this podcast, you can find me on orbitmedia.com/blog is where I put my latest and greatest. I write there about every other week. The book is anywhere. It's in the sports edition. You can find it on Amazon. It's called Content Chemistry. I've got a podcast, which if you search for it, it's called Content Matters. My Twitter handle's my last name. I'm an easy guy to reach. I hope I am.
Okay, well, your last name, why don't you spell it out, your exact Twitter handle?
At Crestodina, Crestodina. Ask me anything. LinkedIn's an even better network. Any of your listeners are welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn, of course.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Andy. Till next time, buddy.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Dave.